Welcome, everyone. I'm Reverend Dr. David Brown, minister at Wayfarers Chapel, and delighted to have the evening with Gary Springfield here.
Thank
Um, so I'll give a little bit of an introduction. This entire series is titled "Exploring New Earth." It's really going back to the prophet Isaiah in the Old Testament, but also it's there in Revelation about a new heaven, a new earth here on earth, and a big proponent of us spiritually being co-creators, bringing about this heaven here to earth. So. Um, I'll let Gary speak in just a minute, and now we'll find out a little bit more about his own spiritual journey. Um, but I'm going to give you a little bit of context. I know Gary through um, through Marsha Kimpton. She's been a guest here, and I think that was probably over 20 years ago at this point. I was in seminary in Berkeley, and she was having you in San Francisco. So I met you in San Francisco and had a session with you. And I think the thing that was most memorable, it was profound, was the way that you uh, really embody this divine energy, if you will, the way, and you'll be able to explain it to people a bit more because the more that I've gotten to learn about you and your journey, and also keeping up with your books. I do have one of those here. Hopefully, there it is. Source Dialogues. It's it is a profound book. It's very dense in terms of the wisdom and the information. I can see why it's not for everyone who's just kind of wants their light reading. This is it's a heavy hitter. And in preparation for this evening, I started going through more of I got into, I think, 46 up to 46, 47 around there. So I'm getting close to the end there. And it is for anyone that's a serious spiritual seeker that really is looking for insights. They've really kind of tested out a lot of things. I know for myself, once you kind of test out what's out there, there's the guidance is less in terms of the actual true knowledge of things that are kind of on the esoteric path that are perhaps an initiation or other kind of rites. So this book really captures a lot of insight and wisdom for me, this is, I'll just share one other thing from the ministry side of things, professional side of the ministry. One thing that really got me interested in doing deeper work is what I've seen out there in the world, which is um, there is this difference between the mental knowledge, and I think artificial intelligence is showing us that it's demonstrating the limitations of knowledge versus wisdom. And when we're talking about the difference between something that's intellectually there, but dropping that down into the lived experience within the body and into the body temple is a whole other thing. And it's that I've seen the how you can live it at a certain level intellectually. You can understand lots of things, but to drop that into the experiential and the lived and the feeling essence of where that derives from is qualitatively totally different. And so I'm hoping we can begin our journey this evening by, and part of my intention is to give a new audience a different perspective on things to introduce the world to your work, which I've gotten to know over the course of a period of time and already spent some time with you. So, yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Gary, and just maybe give some insight about your path, your journey, what led you to this work, and we'll eventually get to where what you're doing presently.
Well, thank you very much, my friend. It's great to be here and welcome to all you people that are going to tune in, that are tuning in. So, my journey began in Colorado, and it was kind of a rough and tumble time in the early 50s and into the 60s. And it was a fairly dysfunctional family, and I was quite ill. So, I was put into a home. And so I grew up feeling pretty emotionally lonely and abandoned and feeling really kind of worthless with some underlying issues of frustration and more than a fair amount of anger. And then I got to college, and a friend of mine gave me a book, and it was Edgar Casey, The Sleeping Prophet. And when I read the book, I realized they had lied to me, that there is another reality. And so that began my foray into consciousness. And all through college, then I read voraciously all of the mystics, the metaphysical, the spiritual, all the different religions, and trying to find out, well, what is the truth? And so I had a tremendous knowledge, just as you were saying. I was kind of very steeped in knowledge about what is the divine and what is source and what is reality, but I wasn't living it. And then when I was 28, I started meditating. I was introduced to meditation. And it was such a profound experience that I was in real estate construction at the time, building houses. And everything was so dramatic when I started meditating. It became more of an embodiment of all that knowledge and that feeling nature. And it also then, in my meditation, began to reawaken what I had as a child, which is a very deep feeling sense of seeing and kind of psychically in tune to things around me. And so within a year, I sold my business and moved to California and began my spiritual journey, which was some 45 years ago. And since then, I think I can count on my fingers and toes the times I've missed twice a day meditating and deepening into my spiritual, if you will, relationship. Um, Once I started meditating, after a couple of years, my sight was really quite awakened. And I realized and could see that most spiritual people had light from the diaphragm up. And so, like me, they had knowledge, they had wisdom, they could live from their heart, they knew truth, and they were good and righteous people, but very little light below the diaphragm. And that was confusing. And I realized that it was white light and that really it's the golden light, the Christ frequency that really is the mystical marriage of spirit and matter.
Mhm.
People were looking for spirit rather than bringing spirit into form. And so my meditation changed radically from going out and looking for truth and literally feeling and seeing this golden liquid waterfall of light, the soul divine I am flowing in and through. And as it flowed down into the area below the diaphragm, it was dense, it was stuck. I realized it was all the emotion that I was still carrying that I held at bay. I didn't project it or emote it too much. If someone really pushed my buttons, I could be, quite angry, but otherwise it was held, at bay. But as I began to dive into it with the feeling nature of the golden light, I didn't examine it, I didn't think about it. I simply allowed my feeling nature to settle into the emotion. And almost in non resistance, when you're moving into emotion, it symbolically opens up. It is no longer in resistance, it knows it's being honored. And as
Mhm.
I stepped into the emotion, I could feel myself almost symbolically, even factually, moving upon a waveform back through time space. And every emotion brought me to 0 to 7, where this childlike part of me was born divine, just as all souls are born divine. But then the essence of the culture, mother, father, society, they then overshadow us with beliefs of limitation, things that cause us travail, pain, and suffering, which is not an error. It's literally the soul choosing mother, father culture in order to find the emotions that it wants to work on in this particular incarnation. And so as I would slip in and find this child back there in time space, there was always some authority figure there overshadowing him with their ignorance. And it's not that I needed to even forgive them or let go of them. I was there to simply reparent the soul in the sense that it was the soul that created the child, and the child was but an embodiment of the soul. So if you take a hologram and you shatter it, the smallest piece of the hologram has the entire image of the hologram within it.
Right.
And so when we're born, the soul literally takes a sliver of its perfect hologram and drops it down into time space, and divinity is born. It's the soul. It's in a small body from 0 to 7, and we may call it inner child work, but it's really soul retrieval work.
Mm.
And so as we're then slipping in and finding this 0 to 7 time frame and the authority figures or what's overshadowing the child with ignorance, we're not judging them or criticizing them or even disliking them. We're simply bringing the divine light to the child, which is the soul, and now the child are becoming unified. This is symbolic of the Christ child, if you will. And so the soul is now literally giving it light, and it grows in stature, and it literally comes into light activation. And in light activation, everything simply returns back to light.
Mm.
Hurt anyone, doesn't harm anyone. It simply is, literally letting go of the physical form that is holding the ignorance and turning it back into light, which allows the child then to be loved by the soul. It begins to recognize this is my true mother, father, sacred divine. This is the being that truly created me. As we settle into every emotion, we ferret it out within the third chakra of anger and frustration and powerlessness, and then the second chakra of loneliness and abandonment and grief and confusion, and then down to the first chakra of fear and worry and worthlessness. And as we keep settling into those deeper layers, and they are kind of deeper and denser layers of emotion, if we're again in non resistance, we keep settling through until we find this child that was programmed with that because we wanted to learn about worthlessness and loneliness and frustration and anger and hatred, so that when we bring love to it, it just disappeared.
Mm.
So that when we see it in the world, it then cultures great compassion. We're no longer angry or frustrated or feeling that we're, out of balance in the world. It's simply the divine playing within a play of light and dark shadows to give itself information about existence. And so
Mhm.
our compassion is able to literally slip through the illusions of something that we used to dislike or judge or criticize. And then we find inside the divine that our love is then like a seed, it's like almost a catalyst. It's stimulating the divine within them.
Mm.
And if they want to awaken, then they will awaken. And if they still need pain and suffering for their teaching, they'll create pain and suffering. It's much like the story of Jesus when he healed someone. He didn't try and change them. He
Right.
simply came into the sunlight of light activation of love, and the love slipped through their layers of their separation and ignited what is in all creation, source, God, oneness. And it was as a catalyst ignited, it then began to awaken back into life, and their darkness, disease slipped away. But then he said, go forth and sin no more, or you'll simply bring back your ignorance.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so I realized it wasn't trying to change the world anymore. It's just like the sun. It shines brilliantly, which is the Christ energy as well. And it nurtures all of life just by its existence. It's not trying to change something. It simply knows that the seeds that are in the ground in the darkness, they're going to fruit and flower in their timing. And so that's again what the Christ light does. It simply is the living sunlight that we become within the worlds of form, because we embrace both spirit and matter, and we then unite them within us. And in that uniting, it literally creates then this level of light activation around us that we call the star tetrahedron, which is the upper triangulation of divine power, the Father, if you will,
Hmm.
the lower triangulation of divine mother, imagination, love. And as those two triangulations are being created by our light and consciousness, it becomes this kind of geometric form. And with that geometric form, as the upper triangulation is turning and the lower triangulation is turning, it then literally creates a vortex in the very middle. That vortex opens a doorway within your heart chakra back into the void. And then from out of it, spirit can literally through the void breathe itself into this existence. It's why Jesus said, I am the doorway.
Hmm.
And being the doorway, on one side is the void, and you are the doorway. And the other side is the realms of manifestation, and you are simply the breath of imagination that is summoning that which you are, which is source, through the doorway. And then through your intention and love, you then give it life and it becomes manifest. And so, in that sense, there's really nothing out of balance in the world that, kind of really needs to be changed. It's just coming into light activation. And that's what's happening on the planet today. There are so many people coming into light activation, and it's illuminating the darkness in the world. And if we want to judge it or criticize it, it's our judgment that even empowers more darkness.
Mm.
Whatever we fight, it gives it energy and light. But if we are the living sunlight, as Jesus was, it simply flows and ignites that which is in all creation, the divine. And like a catalyst, it has to awaken at some time, but we're not concerned with that timing because that's spirit timing. So we're always in equanimity with life. And we know because we are vibrating love and joy and prosperity and goodness and grace, that's all we can meet in the world. If there is sadness or loneliness or frustration, we project it out. And then we look through the lens of that energy within our aura and we say, well, look what's happening out there. Or this is bothering me, or this person is making me sad, or I'm angry about this. But every human being is simply light projecting from inside out reality, both the grace and the glory that they're meeting, but as well as the things that bother them or push their buttons. So
Yeah.
we truly are the creators. And so it becomes, for me, very exciting that it was, again, beginning with the golden light and ferreting out, the darkness, the unconscious. Excuse me. But then it began to be that there is actually the movement of this kind of force of light, the star tetrahedron that opened this doorway, and one could literally feel the breath of spirit that I am breathing out, and then one becomes in one's meditation simply the breath of life. And so when we're breathing in, we're on the other side of the doorway and we are source breathing out. And as we hold for a moment, we're at the doorway. And then with our out breath, we are then collapsing the breath into our intentionality, our
Mm.
imagination, our feeling of the joy and the love that we would create because we are now becoming divine creators. And we can be trusted with all the powers of heaven and earth because we have found all of our emotion, our darkness. And through love, we have literally transformed it back into love and light. And so we're not looking for anything in the world anymore. We're not looking for validation or love or literally anything. It literally knowing that it's emanating from our aura, from our energy field, and all of that is simply the then mirror of the world we meet. Love and goodness and grace and prosperity. So it makes it a very blissful and simple life.
Yeah. Um, so as we're talking, I'm feeling some of the some of that energy emanating. It's great. It's kind of it's exciting for me to kind of feel that activation a bit. I know for some that may be new to your work. I know I've done your golden light meditation several times. Um, I'm hoping you might be able to talk a little bit about how you kind of came to this, there's a moment in your golden light meditation where there's the inner child that's dwelling within us at in the embodied uh, place within us, and if you wouldn't mind, if you could take us to how, not only how that activation works, but how we can maybe embrace some of that healing of our inner child in through that golden light meditation, or if you have any even new insights around that, I think that would be meaningful for some of our people watching this presently and also perhaps afterwards.
The key is to be able to bring the light into the body. Again, most people, they're looking for God, but literally the doorway is within. It's like Jesus said, the Father and I are one. It simply meant that He is the doorway and the Father is literally His breath. And
Hmm.
so rather than looking for truth or looking for spirit anymore, if we've looked for it and we've found wisdom and knowledge, then we have done our homework. But now we must change our focus and use the focusing of the mind not to think and examine, but hold it steady upon the feeling of golden light. And so I used to sit in the sunlight when I did my meditation and feel that glorious golden feeling. And I would, like a living waterfall, begin to imagine it. And at first it was a little challenging, but I was quite persistent. And as I became more persistent, it then literally, just like tennis or like any sport, you then learn more and more about the feeling nature of it and becomes more natural. And so I began to be quite familiar with the feeling of golden liquid light flowing down in and through my body. And as I let my mind rest upon the golden light, which is love and power, not thinking, but simply focusing upon the golden light and even becoming it, I could then let it settle down into the body and become aware of where is it not flowing.
Mm.
Or if there was some emotion throughout the day that had challenged me, I would remember that emotion. And then I would come home and I would sit down and I would bring the golden light in and I would feel, well, where does that emotion live in my body? And of
Mhm.
course, I knew that the redness of anger and frustration or powerlessness are really third chakra. So that was a clue. Is it the liver angry? Is it the pancreas? I don't feel the sweetness of life. Is it the mid back? I feel powerless. And so one gives oneself clues through the chakra system. And of course, second chakra, sadness and grief and shame and blame and loneliness and abandonment.
Mm.
And if it was fear and worry, one realized was probably down more in the hips and the pelvic region, base of the spine. But because one becomes so familiar with the golden light, it begins to illuminate what's inside. And
Mhm.
in that illumination, because we're not judging it or criticizing it or disliking it, the emotion, which is simply this childlike part, which is the soul, that has been overshadowed with ignorance, it doesn't feel judged anymore. If someone feels judged, they then want to clinch. But if someone is feeling judged or alone and you begin to open your heart and truly love them, they'll relax. They'll probably become more amenable to your dance with them. And so
Mm.
that's what emotion is. When we are literally bringing this feeling of golden sunlight and peace, the emotion wants to be released. It doesn't really want to live in our body.
Mhm.
We're settling into it. We then begin to ask ourselves, well, what is this child feeling? And so we begin to create a dialogue literally with this childlike part of us. As we're creating this dialogue, the child can say, well, I felt hopeless. Okay, well, then we then settle into hopelessness and we feel it and we taste it. We get to know it. We're not trying to get rid of it, mind you,
Mhm.
settling into the emotion. And then as we settle in more deeper, that's when we begin to imagine and feel ourselves moving almost like a ripple across the ocean. And now we're back in a room in time, space, and there's this child. And we imagine as best we can, well, who's there? And you see, we can't make a mistake because we're simply dancing with light.
Mm.
We then begin to imagine who's there and we say, okay, it looks like dad. And then you kind of remember, well, dad was, he was kind of abusive. So you honor that. because you're not going to be able to hurt anyone or harm anyone.
Hmm.
You're sitting there literally feeling that there you are in a room and there's dad and he's coming through and he has a belt and he's going to be abusive. But that's when all of a sudden the soul steps into the moment as this great golden, glorious being of light and angelic being, opens heart and golden liquid light flows in this child. It becomes light activated because it's not a child. From 0 to 7 is simply the soul in a small body.
Mm.
And so, as the soul is now recognizing that this is the being that created me, it comes into light activation. And in that moment, just like a nuclear moment, light is just exploding everywhere. It releases all of the ignorant programs, releases them. It doesn't hurt anyone, it doesn't harm anyone. It simply is changing the past by releasing the thought forms and the energy that is encased in that moment because we're still believing it happened. And so we are literally, in one way, changing the past, which creates a new ripple in the timeline of our reality that now there's love and there's joy and there's childlike magic and happiness and playfulness within. That awakens more and more each day as we simply keep processing the emotion and let it go. And then we're also then doing our meditation. We're becoming more familiar with the feeling of golden light, the essence of it. And so after a while, we begin to realize, well, even in my workout, when I'm at the gym, I can feel golden liquid light flowing through me. When I'm driving, there's golden liquid light flowing through me. I am the golden light. So it becomes, a whole new experience of how we really feel and access our reality.
Yeah, beautiful. Um, I've heard you explain this a few times in different settings with different groups, and it's really you're the way that you explain this has just been absolutely beautiful because in your setting it up, it really activates something. So I'm hoping you might be able to go there with me, which is you've explained a bit. I think it was if you recall this. It was trying to explain kind of that ignition point because you went there with the kind of that nuclear piece, which is, I think you kind of equated it to like gas filling up, but then there's the spark, this ignition that is and I think that connects with the golden light, with the tetrahedron, and the how that spinning works. And you're going to do a much better job than I am because I'm just kind of pulling that off of when you riffing off of what you were explaining there. And I know every time you've explained it to a group, I mean something ignited in me. Like you just explained something that I've experienced and when I experienced it, I couldn't exactly put words to it, but you've done this several times. So if that made sense,
Right.
I'll let you run with it.
Well, when we're bringing the golden light in, and it is that which is the soul divine, which is the Christ frequency. Your soul is a golden being of light. It is a holographic emanation of source. Again, the divine source simply shattered the hologram of all that God I am is. And so each soul is divine. And in that divinity, it is already, source. It is, the Christ light of perfect balance and harmony. It is wanting to descend into a dimensional world to learn about free will.
Mm,
So most sectors of the universe are not free will sectors. They simply do that which is the divine in the co-creating of more glorious heavens and earths and realities. But at the same time, it's like when you wake up in the morning and you always know what the day is going to be, or you already know what tomorrow's newspaper is, it's kind of boring.
mm,
So that's when Source decided, well, I wonder if we can play with hiding ourselves within a dense world of form and literally somewhat go to sleep. And within that ignorance, try and wake up within a very dense physical world. And if we can wake up in a world that is really steeped in darkness and the unconscious and pain and suffering, and through love, literally transform it, we will then literally be divine beings living within physical form for the first time, and we'll
mm.
begin to co-create even more interesting heavens on earth. And so it's an evolutionary experience that we're creating. And so we as souls then again chose that we would come here and learn about good, bad, light, dark, and then the fallen masculine, which is manipulation, control, needing, wanting, desiring, the fallen feminine, which is emotionality and loneliness and grief and sadness. We'd be able to slip through those polar opposites, masculine being the right side of the aura, feminine being the left side of the aura. So it's all within us. But as we would slip through it and all of those old programs of ignorance and bring love, we would then be the master of darkness. We would know
Mm.
that love transmutes darkness back into the divine of source. And so that's why inner child work or soul retrieval work becomes so important, because that's where the unconscious is below the diaphragm. And as we then are bringing the golden light in and we become more familiar with it, it is also culturing our feeling nature, not the mind, but the feeling nature.
Hmm.
And it's through our feeling nature that we literally can begin to access anything in creation. If you're truly alive in your feeling nature, you can literally flow into anything and feel yourself become it. You're not judging it or criticizing, you're simply allowing yourself to be it. And in the feeling of being it, all that it is simply talking back to you and feeling information that you can then transform into knowledge and wisdom. And so that's the feeling nature where we literally then begin to feel all creation on the planet, be it the good, the bad, the light, dark, even Mother Earth. It's just source. We're
Mm.
simply consciousness playing within this divine world to culture our body, our ability to literally feel divine in every moment, everywhere. And that moment, that's when we become the embodiment of the golden light, the Christ energy, the Christ being, beings like, of course, Jesus, who mastered the star tetrahedron and became it, probably Buddha, as many others that we don't really know about. But now is the time where so many people in mass are waking up on the planet because we have moved out of Pisces, which was about masculine manipulation,
Mm.
into Aquarius, which is pouring out of the living waters of the feminine onto the planet of feeling love. And so we're now literally on this ascending arc into a whole nother level of divine revelation of heaven on earth by those beings who are now able to become light activated within form. So ascension isn't leaving, ascension
Hmm.
is bringing the light of the divine I am in and becoming the light on earth. I am the living light. And if you're the sunlight and I'm the sunlight and Stephanie's the sunlight and Rudy's the sunlight, then very quickly the sunlight, like a nuclear field, simply wraps itself around the planet and it goes light nuclear itself. So, in one way, we're not trying to change the planet, we're simply becoming light activation individually.
Mm.
It magnetizes back to us ever more goodness and grace as a mirror of what we are. So, everything becomes more divine and sacred.
I love it. Love it. Light activation. Um, well, Stephanie, I wanted to give you an opportunity to, if you have any questions, to feel free to jump in and ask Gary.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, and there are others on too that so it's an honor to be here and to listen and learn. I'm just becoming aware of your teaching, and I had a chance to watch some of your content today, and it was really interesting. And so what are the obstacles that we in our human beingness have to receiving that light and being a part of that? I grew up Lutheran through the studying and the catechism and being told kind of, this is the Bible and this is the word, but maybe not having a deep connection with that as I have been now as an adult. And how can we become part of this movement in kind of a broken world? So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you think about that and what
Right.
we can do together.
Well, that's a wonderful question. So, of course, the key is simply emotions. It's very, very simple. It's the emotional body. But our existence on the planet has always said, well, put the emotional body to sleep and put your anger and your frustration, your loneliness, and stuff it and get a good job and get a good relationship and be a good person. And when I realized that, I was supposed to grow up to be like my dad, that scared excuse me, the piss out of me. I realized, no, thank you. And so I was fortunate enough to come across, meditation and again, a spiritual journey that began in college. And then by literally meditating, I became quite familiar with that light wasn't flowing within me. I remember I was bringing the golden light down in, and I tell the story that it hit the area of the diaphragm, and I called it my bowling ball of darkness.
Mm.
And as I let the golden light rest upon the bowling ball of darkness, finally, after 2 or 3 weeks, this little trap door opened, and this little kid stuck his head out, and he said, "What the heck do you want?" He said, "Oh," I said, "I wanna love you." He said, "Oh, bull roar," and slammed the door. I realized, "Uh-oh, this is gonna be a challenge." So for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I would let the golden light rest upon the bowling ball of darkness, and like an animal in a cave, I'd kind of sprinkle some golden light out in front and see if he would come out and take a nibble. And after another 3 weeks, the little trapdoor opened. He stuck his head out. He said, "Okay, big guy." He says, "Here's the deal. I feel so worthless and lonely that
Mm.
if you say you're gonna love me and you don't, it's curtains." And I knew that was probably truth. So I said, "I'll be there every day." And so I began to imagine him walking with me. I began to feel him riding in my car with me. I went to the toy store and bought a little toy that he wanted. He pointed right to that one, and I bought him this big bear, and I set it on my couch. Every time I came home, there was the bear, and I remember this little boy. But equally important, I then began to be more disciplined, and after my meditation, letting the golden light rest upon this area of the bowling ball of darkness. Because I wasn't judging it or criticizing it, that's when the emotion began to open up. And I found the anger, I found more than a little bit of hatred. He hated being in a box as a kid. He hated being abused. And I said, that's righteous. I'm not going to judge it or criticize it. As I simply slipped through it and then literally felt myself back in time space, there he was. And here was the abuse happening. He was now, being, overshadowed with great ignorance. And I didn't judge or criticize anyone. I simply gave him enough light that he could come into light activation and recognize that I was the one that created him. And so it literally begins to open up, Stephanie, as we then begin to access the emotion bit by bit, day by day. And once again, if we feel something each moment in our life that's kind of challenging or pushing our buttons, we have to realize, oh, I created that in order to feel, well, what's inside that is feeling lonely or sad or confused. Confusion is simply you were very sensitive as a child. You knew the truth, but everyone was saying, no, that's not right, Stephanie. This is what the truth is. And so it creates confusion. But that's the little girl saying, I'm confused about what's going on. Well, it's not about today. You may think you're confused today, but it's literally this little girl that's still back there confused. And as you show up more and more each day as this golden being of light that you already are, that's the important part. We think that, and again, there's nothing wrong with, religious programming. It gives us a code of right and wrong and good and bad. So we're not judging it, but we then realize, well, it's a limited construct of people who really don't know the truth. They think about it. And because golden light is the embodiment, it's the literally feeling embodiment of the Christ energy. As we bring it in, it begins to, from inside out, vibrationally change us. It brings information. It brings new vibration. And so again, it's that feeling energy. And that's the beauty of being within a feminine embodiment or being a man that has a deep feeling nature. Men, it's more difficult for them to feel, but women have access to it. It's the feeling nature. And again, men who are sensitive, like, Reverend Brown, they're easily more in that feeling nature, and then they become spiritual luminaries. So it's again possible because the right side is masculine, the left side is feminine. And the world will say, well, you shouldn't be changing. We like you the way you are. You're just fine. And so then loved ones and relationships and maybe even children will say, well, you're being weird. Well, then we have to celebrate our weirdness. Well, thank you very much. Yes, I'm becoming very weird. And I no longer care what you say, feel, or think about me because I know where divinity really lives. It's inside of me. So we're not confused anymore.
Yeah.
Grounding is also the key because when we begin our meditation, if we open up the base of the spine, which is closed in most people, and
Mhm.
again, I'll send you the Golden Light meditation for anyone who would like it. Just send me an email and I'll, for free, simply shoot you the Golden Light meditation. But when we open up the base of the spine like a flower, and that's what the chakra looks like, we then imagine golden ribbons of sunlight dancing down in and through earth. And so we look to begin to embrace and become one with the mother. And then the body feels safe because it comes from earth. As it feels safe, it relaxes and allows more of the emotional body to be accessed.
Yeah. Um, and that's I love that. We've got, and as you were just talking, I was entering into that feeling that rootedness, which is it's a it's a beautiful thing, and also just the feeling is safe. I mean, the
Yes,
feeling of safety and regulation and the sympathetic, parasympathetic, these are people are starting to talk about these days as the new gold. That's going to be on the new earth and the new heavens. That's going to be the new currency along with heart energy. And I love this because this is all about the activation. This is all in alignment with your teachings, and I think the teachings of as we're co-creating this new heaven here on earth. It is at a feeling, emotional, energetic level, and hoping you might say a few words about. I was reading your book about the healing of the he, she, and this polarity and integration, because I think you were touching upon that a little bit, and it's a powerful thing because it also ties into this. And I did wear blue just because I was getting into that blue white energy of the I am that I am of the burning bush, and it was exciting stuff when you think about the power of just entering into asking that question, who am I, on a regular basis. It's a powerful question to ask. So I was hoping you might say a few words about that.
sure. Of course, with all human beings, the right side is the masculine. And masculine up till now has been demonstrated as needing and wanting and desiring, manipulation, control, in order to find, some sense of peace. The fallen feminine then has been sadness and grief and loneliness and downtrodden, kind of confusion and, hopelessness. But those are simply emotions. And they're emotions that had to be given to us if they're in our body somewhere in our childhood, because we as the soul wanted to work upon balancing our masculine and our feminine. So I found all those emotions, both the fallen feminine within me and the fallen masculine. But as we begin to meditate, we then begin to realize that the divine masculine is simply the ability to focus the mind, hold attention steady. And the divine feminine is love and imagination. And as we then begin to unite the two, it's just like when we go to a movie, they turn the bright projector on. Well, that's the focusing of mind attention. It's light. As we then bring forth our imagination and feeling, what it is we choose to imagine and feel and create, the light shining through that within our energy field, our aura, literally ripples it out and manifestation occurs. It's how Jesus literally created the loaves and the fishes. He didn't think about loaves and fishes. He held the image, feeling of loaves and fishes, and simply allowed the dynamic focusing of attention, divine masculine, divine mind, to shine light upon that imagination, film, feeling, and it manifests. And so there's been, more than a few beings down through history that have been able to manifest and create, and it's by simply holding the divine mind steady and then focusing upon the imagination and feeling the divine feminine. And as we're then doing that, that begins to create then around us this little energetic body of the star tetrahedron, the divine masculine, upper triangulation, divine feminine, divine love and joy. They begin to move and open the doorway in the heart chakra, and we're now literally able to breathe source, that which we truly are already, through this open doorway and create to an even greater extent. And so we become literally divine creators. So that's the energy of finding all the emotion inside both the fallen masculine and the fallen feminine, and then finding it was the child that was literally programmed in ignorance by some authority figure, something within the environment. And we're now literally giving the child, which is the soul that is in a small body, the ability to be so loved. It realizes that it would never hurt or harm or be angry or sad or lonely because it's not looking for anything anymore. It has found its true parentage. The soul is now united with the child in the body. The two become literally the three in the one. The aspect of the Father, power, the Mother, love, and the Christ, the soul. We become the three in the one. And so that's when Jesus was able to say, I am the light, I am the doorway. All that the Father is, I am. And he wasn't saying I'm the only I am. Everyone is the I am once they open the doorway. And that doorway is within the heart chakra. And then from inside out, we're literally breathing existence. That's really the interesting conundrum, because we like to believe that everything is out there. But in fact, spirit is simply breathing itself from inside out. It's like a balloon. If you breathe, breath into it, the balloon it blows up and it gets bigger and bigger. Well, that's what the universe is doing. It's looking bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's just the breath of spirit from inside out, breathing itself and then creating holographic, living, dancing light images that we then say are real, and then we dance within it. It's all just light. And what is light is just consciousness. So it's a dang exquisite play.
The dance of light. We're living it. I
We are,
love it.
and we're awakening within it, which is the beauty of it. That's the real beauty of it.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming up close to the hour. Stephanie, did you have any other questions? Or Jean, did you have any comment you wanted to get in before we kind of wrap things up? And okay, Jean says thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Yeah, I think Marcia may have joined us too. I'm not quite sure.
She's
Oh,
in
look at
right now. She could join from Africa.
that. Yeah. Marcia, is that you joining us all the way from a different continent?
She's in lovely Africa.
Oh, that's wonderful.
She's doing a film there, another
Oh,
film. Yeah.
tremendous. No, she's was just wonderful. I just hearing her speak as well. I can see how aligned you are. I guess I do have another question about the role of you had mentioned and share. Thank you for sharing the story of your early years and suffering. And I think that many, all of us, we don't escape that. And is there a role in suffering that leads us to the light? Uh,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
It's the planet of pain and suffering until we learn to meditate.
Yeah.
And once we learn to meditate and begin to awaken the feeling nature, then we can begin to feel where truth lives.
Mm.
And of course, it lives within, and the only thing that's covering truth is the feeling of emotion. And so rather than judge or criticize or even have to literally project our emotion out and create more suffering, we realize very quickly that when the emotion begins to be felt, because our feeling nature is becoming so alive, we can begin to access the emotion when it's just beginning to bubble. Most people don't access it when it begins to just gently bubble. They say, well, I'll do this tomorrow, or I don't think I can do that. And they keep quietly suppressing the emotion until it reaches a critical mass. And then it explodes out, and someone is dishonoring us, or there is something that makes us feel lonely or sad, or we don't like what's going on in politics, or our prosperity is having a challenge. So we with our feeling nature, we begin to access it very quickly, and so suffering falls away quite rapidly.
Mm.
But for still, we're a very young species.
Mm.
A lot of kind of, we might say, older, wise souls who have played the game for a long time are now incarnating.
Mm.
And at the same time, because they really want to wake up, just like I really wanted to wake up this incarnation and be the master of darkness, because I had mastered the light in so many other incarnations. I chose particularly challenging and difficult and diseased body and time in order to access, the deepest darkness that spirit could give me. And then by, able to literally feel myself dancing through it, I feel like I'm the master of darkness now,
Mm.
that nothing really, pushes my buttons or gets in my space. And then I have, in my reading work, I've met things, that are literally, we might say, dark and hideous. But when you literally can open your heart and
Mm.
allow the Christ energy to flow in and through and not judge it, you slip through and you find, well, where was this child that was damaged? I remember one woman, she was schizophrenic and she had this kind of dark, almost evil feeling around her. But as I simply sat with her and allowed the light to flow in, I found her as a 2-year-old on a floor in a puddle of urine and feces with the refrigerator open, looking for sustenance. And so she wove all this darkness around her so that she would never be hurt again. So darkness is just, it's a way that people keep things at bay.
Mm.
If we're living, LIV, in love, then we're in the frequency of the divine, living in love.
Mm.
And if something comes along and judges us or criticizes us, it creates a counterclockwise spiral of live spell backwards, which is EVIL. And so that's what darkness is. It's just someone's judgment and criticism of source. It's not real, but if we feel it and believe it and give it our energy, it becomes real. And then we're frightened of it, but the fear is not about that. It's the little child is still frightened from childhood.
Mm.
So everything comes back to 0 to 7, the soul that's in a very small body.
Thank
So
you.
I think my core issue was worthlessness. And I found myself, my feeling nature became so alive that I literally felt myself in utero at 6 months gestation. And my mother was out buying little girls' clothes. So right there, I was worthless. So even from 0 to 7, the feeling energy is seeping into this being that is small, but the soul is there.
Mm.
0 to 7. At 7, the frontal lobe begins to develop, and the child discerns, well, this is mother, father, culture. This is happening to me. But from 0 to 7, we simply breathe it in and say, oh, that must be me. That must be me.
Mm.
And that's our karma. That's what we want. We as souls chose it. We also choose the love and the grace of, the times that we're steeped in love with mother or father. So it's all that we're creating our reality to simply learn to wake up and be the divine, because that's what we already are. You're already it. Give it up. What are you looking for? You're it.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I was seeing if Marcia might be coming in, but she's online. Maybe she might be a connectivity issue. I'm guessing that might not be signal strength enough to show up. But we know you're here, Marcia, so thank you
You're
for
Marshall.
for being here. Um, so Gary, if people want to connect with you, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Probably send me an email, gspring33@gmail.com, and
Okay,
I'll immediately get back with them. And if anyone would like the Golden Light meditation, just shoot me an email and I'll send them right back the Golden Light meditation. I'll send them both a 12 and a 20-minute version. And then, of
excellent.
course, my website, GarySpringfield.com, has lots of information. And of course, I'm always doing personal sessions, which are kind of a deep dive into one's emotional, feeling, mental, spiritual body, and helping them understand where they're coming from, what they're seeking to create, and what within the aura is maybe the challenging aspects that they're looking to learn to balance and align. So I also do those online sessions. So just by accessing me by email, I can also give anyone more information about that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Stephanie, or the last question before we wind things up?
Come
No,
on.
I'm just
Come on,
I'm
Stephanie. There's one more question. I can feel it.
no, it I think I know the answer to this one, but is this accessible to all of us? Well, and I'll ask maybe a better question. You talk about the light coming from inward. People are out seeking in the world, but it's really the recognition of our inner space and our inner work. Um, and I'll bring this back to Wayfarers. I remember visiting Wayfarers probably 30 years ago
Oh,
and having such a profound experience of nature and spirit and holiness. It felt sacred. It felt like a sacred place. And that is very helpful. So I think, in suffering, it has always helped me to go to nature.
yeah.
And do you recognize anything such as that, or those that are suffering? Have you observed that being helpful to be in nature or?
Yes, I often say in my sessions that grounding, it's a feeling that you can create 24/7,
Mm,
but you have experienced when you're in nature or you're walking, by the sea, and there's a sense of Mother Nature and life simply holding you and embracing you, and the mind is silent. And you and this magical child are truly there in that moment. That's grounding. And so you feel safe and you feel nurtured. When we begin to dynamically work with grounding, it becomes a 24/7 moment, because when we ground and we then access the emotion and we then transform it back into love, every moment you see we're living in this state of Christed light energy.
mm,
And so everything is divine. You literally see light kind of dancing within all creation. And so it's a very, you might say blissful, peaceful experience. And, again, for those folks, this is available to everyone. It's just the dedication and the discipline.
mm,
Because I was, so very broken. And the little boy said, if we don't do this, it's curtains. I knew it would be curtains. So, um, being a Taurus, I really became even more focused and bullish and stubborn. And, like I said, I can count on my fingers and toes the time I might miss meditation twice a day.
Mhm.
It's that dedication and discipline. And it's the old adage that you must be willing to give up your mother, your father, your sisters, your brothers for the kingdom, because you will find that as you do this work, you become, so different in vibration that a lot of things around you fall away.
Mhm.
Must be willing to let those go if you really want to become the living light, because it's at first a very kind of one person experience until you reach a level of divinity, then you realize everything is you.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, I'm breathing source 24/7. So it becomes, oh, I'm home. I'm it. I was looking for it and I'm it.
Mhm.
And in your statement, you see the mind is a very important part of the journey because it can begin to access the knowledge. And so through mind, we know there's something more. We begin to search and read and listen to other podcasts, and we find information. And then if that drives us to now let me meditate and embody it, then we're on the pathway.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
like, tennis or, anything that you do, you become the master of it because you're so dedicated. I did a workshop back in the Hamptons one time, and John McEnroe was there,
Mhm.
and we were accessing emotion. And I said, "What's the emotion, John?" He said, "I'm angry."
No, really? For him? Amazing. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, he said, "What?" He said, "Well, I was 3 years old, and my father was out there with his damn racket saying, 'Hit the ball, hit the ball.' Of course, I'm angry." But he became a great tennis player, but then his emotional body didn't necessarily keep pace. So, but he's still a great man. Of course, I'm angry. But it's again 0 to 7. You see, it cultures both, his soul wanting him to be a great tennis player because that was his father, but it's also then culturing the emotional body of, well, you still have some things you want to work on, some issues. So it's all perfect in that sense. It's so amazing and beautiful and fun and interesting.
Truly, truly.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, this earthly experience.
Yes, well, I appreciate you sharing that story just because I've been listening to others who have talked about similar things happening where, or if their success, sometimes they don't want to heal because their success in the world is built upon some of this baseline wounding that they've tried to heal, but they haven't tried to heal because if they actually looked at the core issues, it might be having to let go of the thing that is the worldly success, right? So it is an intricate piece of how all this builds on top of one another, the layering to that. So when we're talking about core stuff, I mean, it really is core to our identity in the world, and so it is a collapse. I mean, it gets to the basic things. You have to die to be reborn, right?
Yeah, it literally is. I mean, it's a whole initiatory experience, when you finally realize from the mind that I'm reaching down inside my body and I'm going to awaken my feeling nature, that's really the birth of the Christ child. And as you then begin to access the emotion and release it, then that begins to be more of the crucifixion. And then as you then finally fully awaken, there's the resurrection. I am the divine. So it's this whole initiatory experience that we go through. So there's lots of, really great wisdom in the New Testament. It's just been bastardized by, the Nicene Council, who took out everything that talked about reincarnation and the power of the people and said, well, if you give the priest your money and your power, we'll give you God. But the Bible at this esoteric core is quite wise if we ferret out what's really the underlying truth, especially around, the gentleman Christ. who before him, you see, Moses brought the law, which was important. This is the Ten Commandments. This is good. And this was for, evolving humanity. And then Jesus came along and said, no, it's love. But that was the beginning of the Piscean age. So he was setting the tone. And now we, through Pisces manipulation and control, are realizing, well, that doesn't work. We better do love. And so now we're in Aquarius, you see. So it's just a whole evolutionary unfolding of consciousness that's quite wonderful and divine.
Well, I saw Marcia there for a hot second, and oh, Marcia, are you there? Did we stall long enough to have you show up to be able to pop in for a moment?
She probably should be sleeping in Africa.
I see something. There's a movement. I see.
There was some light.
You're muted if you're there, Marcia.
Marcia, you're in the light. You're definitely in the light, Marcia.
Well, she's attempting. So,
Yeah.
did that give some insight, Stephanie, to your
Oh,
question?
beautiful. No, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. Yeah, I love talking. So when someone said want to sit down and talk, I love to talk. Oh
Um,
my gosh.
all right. Well, yeah, I'm not seeing Marcia being able to come in, and we are coming up on our allotted time.
Our magic hour.
Yeah.
Our magic hour is here. Oh wait, I got a message here. Hold on. Um, well, here, Gary, I'm going to give you a prompt of yeah. So so Gary, yeah, you may have heard of this tradition, the Swedenborgian Church. Manuel Swedenborg, scientist turned deep mystic, and of course he- I believe Sweden's first and only heretic. The
Right.
the way he understood the Bible is quite different, and so yeah, he never intended to found a religion. He didn't intend to found anything, and so it is in the esoteric tradition that we're here. He did a lot of he I recently learned about how he used breath control to
Oh,
enter a hypnagogic state, and that's where he went through his mystic travels through heaven and hell. So let's see, I have a communication from Marcia here. It says
I
can't.
finally figured out the mic.
Oh,
Can you
there
hear
it
me?
is.
hi,
And
Marcia.
here she is.
Oh my God. God woke me up just so I could hear a part of this.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Literally, Gary, I wanted to hear it so badly. I jumped up and I found the Zoom, but I couldn't find the mic until this moment. So I just want to say it's amazing. And for those that are on, I'm calling from Kenya and Masai Mara, where I went with actually Gary and his wife and son and my daughter. We went in 2014 and saw amazing animals. And Gary, I'm so close to where we were, which is so wild. But I just want to say that I have worked with Gary for Gary, I think it's now 30.
Hmm.
No, yeah, it's not 30 years yet. It's getting close to that.
Has to
But
be.
that
Oh,
everything that Gary's saying, I have worked so hard to embody, and it's absolutely right. I think the hardest part is learning how to meditate and stopping the mind. And
right.
then once you really can do that with his meditation, which is incredible, as you know, Reverend Dave,
Mhm.
but that when the mind finally does stop, which I do find that when you have animals and you're in the middle of Kenya, it stops even quicker.
Right. Mother Nature.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that takes time and money to get here, but you can do it in your own home.
That's right.
any Anywhere, but that just once you finally do that, you really get the sense of the divine, and it just keeps on expanding and then expanding and expanding. And I believe I'm a testament to your work, Gary. So I just can't believe how long I'm so not technical, how long it took me to finally get the mic off because I could hear you. Does Marshall want to say something? And I'm like,
She does. She does.
So I just wanted to end with that and say thank you
That's
for teaching me that, Gary, because it changed my life and it's changing my life.
and you said really the magic word that, once we begin to feel it, and that's what meditation does. It cultures the feeling body, accessing the emotion, cultures the feeling body, um, actually feeling yourself back there in time, space, and giving the child soul light. It's a feeling. Who is there overshadowing the child? It's a feeling. And so you're creating this more awakened feeling nature, and you then begin to feel with the clearing that you're literally able to access the feeling of source 24/7 in all creation. It's not a
Mm.
thought, it's literally, I feel it, I breathe it. It's also interesting what you say about Swedenborg with breath, because I'm finding that once the doorway opened and you literally are sitting at the doorway, it's like a coin. On one side is the eternal void, the breath of spirit from which you emanated out of. But now you are literally there at the doorway, and as you're breathing in, you're here breathing in, you're really on the other side breathing out source. So it's like, and so here comes literally spirit breath through you from the heart chakra. And then as you then simply allow the mind to focus upon love and light, it literally collapses it into golden sunlight and peace all around you. And so you then become the Christ emanation. So you're both the void, the doorway, and the Father and the Mother and the Son. So he was right on with breath work. It's breath is God, breath is spirit, breath is life. And as we're bringing that breath through, of course, it's literally all information of the divine. And so as we have an intention that I'm inviting the breath of spirit that I am to bring me more information and clarity and wisdom about my particular process and my awakening. We're literally then culturing it to have intentionality. And so because the void is literally the repository, the womb of creation, all things already exist within it. And now we have the ability to breathe it through us, and then through our feeling, feel, well, what is this information that is now flowing through me that I'm learning to use to then culture the awakening of that which I am even more, you see. So,
And basically, life becomes a walking prayer at every moment with that brilliant way you just said it. I think the issue is that so many people forget what the ego or the mind is, and it gets in the way. And until you do, I'm not saying you have to meditate, but for me, in following your advice, when you meditate as much as I learned to do with you, I really stopped the mind. So now I know if I am not in that living prayer and that breath, right?
yeah,
Then I'm in the mind. And until you can separate those two, I don't know how else you do it except for through meditation.
it's the fast track. I mean, in India, they say that most human beings are like cows on the threshing floor. Incarnation after incarnation, they go around on the threshing floor, and they might get a few grains of wisdom, but then when you then, through meditation, you can then move to an area of the heart, and there is a doorway, and through meditation, you ascend to the divine very quickly. The, of course, beautiful thing about the mind and thinking, the only reason the mind is active is looking for something, and what it's looking for is love. But the mind will never find it because it's a feeling. And it's a feeling of literally that you're no longer examining the emotional body. You're no longer examining, what's happening. You are literally bringing love and feeling and then transforming the darkness back into wisdom, love. And so it becomes a revelation of light within. And then the mind is silent because it no longer needs anything. It simply is then the focusing of light, upper triangulation of the star upon imagination and feeling, the lower triangulation, and I now am the Christ emanation. I am the living sunlight. And that's why we're all here on the planet, really, is to become the living sunlight at this time, which is rapidly culturing literally the heaven on earth experience. It's happening pretty rapidly. So I'm very excited about it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I think we lost possibly Marcia once again. We'll see, but
No, I'm
God,
here. I'm
oh no, you're
I'm going
here.
to sign
Okay.
off from Kenya, but thank
Yeah, we
you,
do need
Reverend
to
Dave.
wrap this up, but I'm so glad that God woke you up, Marcia, in Kenya. I don't know what time it is there, but it's
See if you
probably morning.
see if you can
Almost 5 a.m.
see if you can bilocate me there, Marcia, would you?
I don't know how to do that yet, Gary, but I think you're closer to it.
Right. I think you need flu powder.
Right.
I suggest putting David Attenborough on there and meditating with him.
There you go. Oh,
There we
Marcia, wonderful that you showed up. Thank you, kiddo.
Oh, Marcia, what a treat. It's so lovely, and Godspeed and safe travels to you.
Oh, thank you. Great to hear your voice, Stephanie. And Reverend Dave, again, it's so cool that you record this because people can listen anytime. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, I know.
absolutely. So extra special, you were able to pop in and join us here at the end, and yeah, this is going to be up online shortly. So thank you so much, Gary, for your time and maybe just yeah, you already stated that how people can get in contact with you. I'll recommend as Marsha's already given her nearly 30 years of approval on the Golden Light meditation and working with you, and especially some of these things that we covered a wide range of topics, and especially around healing and yeah, being able to kind of not only will transmute some of that and know that it's possible. I mean, you're living proof, and so thank you for sharing that very kind of core piece of what got you on this spiritual path. That's anytime we share from that level, it's always I think people can relate to our own stories and our own journeys, and so I appreciate that especially tonight. And so thank you, Stephanie and Jean, and thank you, Rudy, and thank you, Marcia. We're gonna call it a wrap. So take care and God
Thanks
bless.
so much. God bless.
God bless and thank
God
you.
bless.
Pleasure. I enjoyed the heck out of
Bye.
it. Thank you.
All right.
Bye. Dave.
Bye.
Bless.